Welcome to the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Bikini and Bodybuilding Competitions. So real quick, before we dive in, I always like to show this transformation because a lot of women join in thinking, I can't do this. I'm too old. I've never worked out and done all these, these things prior to, I could never do this. And this is a great depiction of somebody who actually started competing in her 50s. Looking at these pictures, you would probably think that the ages were reversed, right? Like she looks more 50 on the left than she does on the right. But this is one of our clients in the studio, Tina Bowers. So this is her, fourth, fifth show that she's done with us, but she didn't start competing until she was in her 50s. So I always like to say, don't, knock the dream just quite yet. It is totally possible. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have this webinar is for you if you really love weight training and you're already training in the gym. Ideally 3 or more times per week. This is great for you to already have that set foundation. If you're already eating whole foods diet about 80 to 90% of the time, we'll dive in a little bit more as to what that actually means. And then competing is something that you've always been curious about and you're tired of procrastinating. Anybody here that wants to, that will agree that that's them. That's often a lot of people. And then, you want the truth about what it takes to be successful on stage. Cause we be telling the truth things over here.
We do be telling the truth.
Yeah. Move this screen over. There we go. That's better. Okay. So for those of you that are new, I know that some of you may not know us super well. So we're just going to spend a couple minutes so you know who the hell we are and why we are talking about this shit. Right. So, I am the boss bitch. If you found us on the podcast, Diane Flores, I'm an IFBB pro. I am the owner of Venus Fitness Studio and also the Goddess Body Elite competition team. So I've competed 16 times. Competition bodybuilding has absolutely changed my life. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. Worked with hundreds of women at this point, likely thousands at this point in 16 years. And I have a genuine passion for women competing the right way. There is a wrong way and there is a right way. Bodybuilding is not a healthy sport. It is an extreme sport. And that is one of the things we want to make sure you do take out of this is that it is not something that you should want to do just so you look like that all the time afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. So we're very adamant about making sure we do this in the proper methodical way. So that is my passion. And then I've definitely seen and done most of the mistakes that most people make in the competition realm. And I really don't want anybody else to repeat those. So that is, again, our mission here. Is a lovely picture of me years ago eating Doritos, cookies, and Portuguese sweetbread.
Sometimes I want to hang out with her.
Yeah, I know. She's cool. She's a cool bitch. So that's my story in a very brief 2-second slide. And then we also have our co-coaches here for the team, which is Amanda Glitters here at my side. Hi. And then Miss Alysha, who's also here on the webinar. Your coaches have done it themselves. So what if I give you guys like a minute to just, give us your synopsis of your before and after and who you are, Coach Glitter.
Yeah. Picture on the left.
I don't know.
That's you. My question. So, let's go ahead and go into it. You guys, I was 280 pounds when I first started weightlifting. Bodybuilding wasn't ever really in my cards. I never really thought that I would ever do that. I was just more or less, okay, I'm heavy, I'm uncomfortable, I don't feel good, I need to change my life somehow. So what it was is I dove into a personal trainer. I started learning about health and nutrition. I fell in love with weight training. It was my passion. I turned into a trainer myself. And then now I've left my 18-year corporate job to do this full time, and I could not have made a better decision.
Love that. Yeah. She's a wellness competitor, personal trainer, competition coach, and you can find her on the gram at Amanda Glitters.
That's me.
All right. Miss
Okay. Yes. For myself, I grew up an athlete. I was always doing different things like dance, competitive cheerleading, and just keeping super active. I found powerlifting, which I was weight training and I really liked. And then my body started breaking down and it wasn't as fun anymore. So I followed in my mom's footsteps, and everyone would always ask me, are you doing a competition? I'm like, no, I don't think I'll ever do that, So I got wrangled into doing one, and I really haven't looked back since. So I really have made this my lifestyle, and I enjoy so much bringing it to other women and just going about it the right way, right? There's multiple ways to do it, but like the most healthiest way we can possible. And just teaching women to live in their power with being strong as shit. And just overall, mentally, physically, doing all the things.
Love that. Wellness competitor, personal trainer, competition coach at East to Beast. Make sure you follow them on the gram. Always posting inspiring and fun things. So thank you for that, ladies. Let's move on. So today, what you will learn, we are going to talk about what the judges are looking for in a bodybuilding contest. That matters because that is what your end goal is working towards. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It matters what the judges want to see on stage. And I think a lot of people go wrong with their process because they just think they're going to train all the things and eat asparagus and tilapia for 30 weeks and then just show up and they're going to swoop because they look better than everybody they know. That's not the case. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the type of training and cardio and nutrition that you can expect to need to do before, during, and up to your show day. So the types of training that, that is going to elicit those results. Then we're going to go into a contest prep timeline for you to be ready. And I have a case study to kind of show you how this works, like how we map this out for people. We'll talk about supplements briefly. We're not going to deep dive into that. We'll go into stage presence and the overall look. Amanda's going to take that over. That's one of her favorite topics. Then we'll also get into the mindset, the mental preparedness needed, the costs, and the post-show recovery period. And you'll see women throughout the webinar slides, and this is just a fraction of the ones that we've transformed, but these women have all gone through the process. Okay, so first, we're going to talk about the different divisions that we coach women through and what judges are looking for in each particular division. So, Amanda,
me first?
Take the stage. Yes.
Am I going to go over wellness first? Because that's the one that I like.
That's what you want to talk about. Let me do bikini and then we'll dive into wellness. That's so on the left, you'll see our client, Erica, Erica, we got Erica, Kate, and Erica. So there's two Ericas here. So in the bikini on the left, so she is 47 and this was her, second or third show. But for bikini, they want to make sure that you have muscularity. Okay, so not to be confused with a skinny contest. And I think a lot of people think, well, I just need to lose a lot of weight and I can do a show. Not true. There needs to be something underneath the body fat that you lose to be able to see muscularity and shape and sculpting and tone, muscle tone. Bikini is like the entry level phase for bodybuilding, right? It's the least muscle needed that you're going to need in all these divisions. And it's usually the easiest one if you're newer to weight training. Okay. Now, it doesn't always mean that you should do bikini, because if you have some other components in line where you maybe played sports or really athletic, you might already have a base of muscle to jump into the other divisions with just some time and training, but that's generally pretty rare. It's generally pretty rare.
Very rare.
So they want to see symmetry, right? Balance. They want to see a tiny waist, some rounded shoulders. They do not want to see striations, which just means when you can see the muscle fibers pushing through the skin. That's way too lean. So getting to this perfect balance is a challenge, and you need a trained eye and somebody who has seen it and done it to understand when you've pushed too far or when you're not lean enough. You have to find the Goldilocks spot for all of these divisions. So bikini in a nutshell is primarily glutes, hamstrings, a little bit of quads without being too overpowering, some shoulders. You don't need a ton of back width or thickness or density, but you want to have a toned, sculpted back. It is covered by your hair, so you don't have to really worry about showcasing that piece of it in the bikini division. All right.
Yeah, all that work.
Yeah,
to cover it up.
And wellness. take the stage.
So wellness is similar to bikini, but not quite the same. Wellness is going to be the only category that is going to be not symmetrical. You're smaller up at the top. You're bigger on the lower body. So this is why Diane was telling you about how if you were athletic and like in your past life, before you got to the gym and you started weight training, you may carry more muscle on the lower half. And that means you might be able to bypass bikini and go into wellness. This has a lot to do with genetics. It has a lot to do with, what you've done from there to now. And it also has a lot to do with how you train. So you want still a tiny little waist. You want to be able to see your muscles. They still don't want striations. However, it's getting a little bit blurred in the lines there because these girls are getting very, very lean. So it's borderline the leanness of figure, but we're still in wellness. So big quads, big glutes. However, you can't be bigger on one or the other. Your quads cannot be bigger than your glutes. Your glutes cannot be bigger than your quads. You definitely still want a really nice upper body. It's somewhat of an X frame, but with just a little bit of a smaller top half, just because you need to be able to showcase that lower half as being the money shot.
Totally. So you'll see our client in the middle, Kate, which I believe she's on this webinar somewhere. So if you can see all the bodies.
Hi, Kate.
And we can't see her, but if
she's in prep right now.
She is in prep right now. She's getting ready for her pro debut. So Kate's in the middle here. This is when she won her pro card. We took her from the very beginning of her bodybuilding journey and several shows later, and she ended up achieving her pro card. So very prestigious thing in bodybuilding. Once you achieve your pro card, was very excited to help her achieve that. So that was super awesome. But you can see her proportions, like Amanda was saying, which Amanda is also in wellness. And so is Alysha, bigger on the lower half, smaller on the upper half. Okay. Then you move to figure, which is Erica Phillips, who's on the right here. Also a client we took from scratch and got her onto stage for her IFBB pro card as well. So that was also a really great achievement for her. But for the figure division, you're going to notice more muscularity overall. They still want balance. So everything needs to be proportioned. There should not be one body part that looks really off here, right? So this is also some technique in training and making sure that everything is done appropriately. Just because you like to work arms does not mean you should be working arms every day, that kind of a thing. So her training program has to reflect what's needed for her specific physique. So you'll see that they're going to want a little more muscle separation there, definitely leaner than the other two divisions. So this is the trajectory of the entry level bikini division to wellness to figure. Okay. Now we talked about the muscle, like the muscularity needed, conditioning, AKA how lean you get, right? So in bikini, they're not going to want you as lean as they want you for figure. They're wanting you to have some softness still. They don't want to see a lot of separation. They want to make sure that you are appropriately lean and not too shredded or not lean enough.
Just the right amount of lines.
Yes.
That's it.
And then number 3, they're looking for balance and symmetry, which we already talked about. So if there's anything overdeveloped, and for a perfect example, I will use Kate in the middle. When she started with me, she had a very, very developed upper body. We weren't sure what division she fit in. So we put her in 2 divisions to kind of see what the judges said. I already knew my heart was set on sending her into wellness because she just definitely had a very overpowering lower body. So now Kate can probably tell you the last time she trained upper body because I took her off upper body completely. It's been months. So she has not trained her upper body. And I think even in this photo, she was lightly doing, I was like giving her eyes, like, don't dare look at that dumbbell. Okay. So your coach has to have a good eye for like, okay, we do not need to train all the things. And then number 4 on this slide is the overall look, your hair, your makeup, your suit, your tan, which we'll talk about later. Okay, we'll go into detail. So judges are looking at all of this. And this is why it's super important that you nail the look. And then 5th is going to be posing and presentation, which Amanda will cover in another slide. And then just as a reminder, everything has to be considered from top to bottom. So we check off all the boxes when it comes to coaching.
I want to just say as well, the judges are doing this and looking at you in 20 seconds or less.
Yes. And that is why you have to have it nailed. Right.
Nailed. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anything I need to add there, you guys? We good?
I think we're
It was great.
Okay. So I know you're asking, how do we get there? how did these girls get there? What does it take to get there? So we've talked about what the judges are looking for. So let's go into how we get there. We're going to talk about the most important thing first, the most important changing thing first. Okay. Alysha's going to take the wheel here, but diet and supplementation.
Yes. So the diet, that is the big portion of your contest prep, right? So your dieting timeline, hopefully your coach has kind of outlined for that. It's really depends on your starting point. What do you look like at your starting point? Everyone's starting point is going to be kind of different. Do you have a little bit more body fat to lose? Is it more of a transformation? To get you to this leanest point? Or are you maybe an athlete doing other forms of things? Are you doing CrossFit, powerlifting, where you have a good base of muscle? And maybe we can get you closer and not do as long as a prep. It just really depends on your starting point. And then needing enough time. Absolutely. So we want to be able to feed you and have refeeds that are necessary. Refeeds are just a way to bring down some accumulation of fatigue. And so you want to have enough time prepped and prepared in your timeline and not rush it. So then that way you're not killing yourself more than you need to. Okay. Whole foods. So number 2, whole foods, single ingredient foods is what's basically going to be on your meal plan. But that's what we want you eating. There's no room for processed things. Processed things lead to unstructured results, right? We want predictable results. So you're going to be eating whole foods. And then number 3, you could be eating 4 to 6 meals per day every few hours. We want to make sure you're getting adequate protein throughout the day. So we keep your muscle mass happy, and not just because we think, oh, it's just good to eat every few hours. No, it's so we keep your muscle mass happy with that protein. And so also you don't get hangry either, because no one wants to be hangry. Okay. Also, another thing in here is number 5, your meal plan is more predictable than macros. Okay. Macro counting is great. There is a time and a place for that. Even in macros, your foods that are whole foods, single ingredient foods, they're going to create more predictable results. When you start adding in processed things and you're adding in like pastas and Oreos and even the fun foods that are like low calorie and sugar free, those all will build up over time and will lead to like different results. Okay. Single ingredient things are really going to get you somewhere more predictable, especially in a contest prep. Okay. This is a level of leanness that you have never been in your life. It's an extreme sport. So we really have to do extreme things that maybe aren't favorable. Okay. And then things add up. Everything has calories. Pretty much your gums, your mints, seasonings, sauces, your dressings. If it's not on your plan, it doesn't go in your mouth. Okay. There are low calorie sauces, some things you can get away with, but for the most part, we're bare bones here. Okay. And then as for supplements, so there is not really a magic pill. Your diet is going to take root. Like that is the number one thing. Work needs to be done. But also, are you going to be enhanced? Are you going to be natural? There will be competitors on stage, more than likely, no matter what division you're in, that are on PEDs, physique enhancing drugs. That's just the reality. Okay. People are going to do it. So you need to know, are you wanting to go that route or are you not? What's your starting point? And there are risks involved with PEDs, and those are things you need to talk to your coach with and be informed and do your own research. Okay. Don't just take someone's word for it. So yes, but supplements as a whole, there are some baselines for health, muscle buildings, and just to make sure you're getting all of those micronutrients that maybe you're not getting through food because your diet and calories are so low.
Yes.
Anything you guys want to add?
I want to add, like, people probably don't necessarily know what PEDs are, even physique enhancing drugs. So the word on the street is steroids.
Yes, steroids.
Yeah, just saying.
Yeah. And that's the reality of it. And we did get some questions in the Q&A stuff about that. Now, this isn't something that everybody does, or we recommend you do, or we pressure you to do. It's the reality of bodybuilding. in the NPC, which is the federation that most people compete in bodybuilding, it's not a drug tested sport. So in any extreme sport that is not drug tested, people are going to break the rules.
They want to be the best.
Yes. And so that is something that is possible. That is something that I have a discussion with every single client on their initial onboarding. Actually, all of us do. And we say, if this is something you're interested in, let me know and I can guide you in the right direction. You should not be getting your drugs from some dude that like is at the gym. So the biggest dude at the gym. Okay. He's probably making that shit in his basement. So we have clinics that we work with because they have protocols for this where they will take special blood work. They'll make sure you do it the healthy way. They have a compounding pharmacy and everything is done appropriately for you specific instead of you just taking some random cocktail of stuff from some rando. So
yeah, this is all based on blood work. And I feel like I don't know any competitor that has not got their labs drawn.
We really stress that. And I didn't put that in the actual costs, which we'll talk about in a few slides, but that is also something that we highly recommend. It is not mandatory. If I have clients that do PEDs, absolutely it's mandatory. That is something that I'm like, I am not messing with your health in that way. It's not worth a plastic trophy. So, so we do have that discussion. So we're not going to like beat that down too much, but that is something that is possible and we do cover with our clients. One thing I do want to mention on the diet piece of it is your social life has to be considered, and we'll talk about that as well in another slide, but I want to mention that because in social settings, food, snacks, and things like that, and there is no room for alcohol in a contest prep diet.
No.
So in the off season, you can wiggle that in and, you know, and even like I'm a looser coach. Most of my coaches were absolutely not like, you should not have not a single solitary drop of alcohol in the off season. But when you are in a prep scenario, when your coach is like, all right, we're in prep 30 weeks out, you're dry for that 30 weeks. So that is also something you have to strongly consider because your social life is going to be affected.
Yeah. I've only gone non-alcoholic a few times.
Dry.
Yeah, I was going to say dry, but non-alcoholic a few times in my life. And most of the time I'm in prep.
Yes.
So if I tell you I'm not drinking, it's probably because I'm in prep.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the next slide. But if at any time, like one of these slides, you're like, well, what about this? Plug it in the chat box. We'll revisit that. So yeah, we'll go over that at the end. So let's move on to the next slide, which is training and cardio.
Everybody's favorite.
All right, Alysha, dive in.
Okay, so this another huge aspect, right? Because you're going to be expected to be in the gym maybe a few hours a day. What's that going to look like? So the type of style we're training is weight training, specifically hypertrophy training, which quite literally means you're trying to grow your muscles. Okay, so you're going to be in a commercial gym with probably machines, with free weights and dumbbells and things like that. 4 to 6 times a week at probably more likely 5 to 6 times per week, about 1 hour just for your weight training. Okay. And progressive overload, that's how we train. We want to progress and really progress every single session. So that means you're either increasing your weights each time, increasing your reps, or a little bit of both. Every time you're in the gym, you're just trying to beat yourself in there. What you don't see is that you are not going to be taking group type classes. Okay. This isn't going to get us to those results. Our weight training, that is what's going to build the muscle, keep the muscle on, and that is the overall look we're going for. Okay. Muscle groups. So what division are you in? You need to be training according to that division. Figure training is going to look a lot different than if you're in the bikini division. And then what body parts are you needing more attention in? Once you specified what division you're thinking of or what the look is that you're going for, the body parts you need more attention to, that's what you should be training. Okay. And then cardio. This is not your magic pill. The diet is where the magic happens. Okay. The cardio is an aid. It's going to get you very far, but you cannot out train a shitty diet. If you're not following your meal plan, it's going to be written all over your body. Okay. So the cardio you're expected to do is more than likely stair mill. That's going to get you probably the best results. The treadmill, the spin bike, it all really depends on how long you're doing cardio, but you can expect at least 30 minutes to maybe an hour for one session of cardio. And then toward the tail ends of prep, a lot of people may need 2 days of cardio. So you might be in the gym one thing in the morning doing your weight training cardio, you're back in the PMs doing more cardio because, hey, this is an extreme sport. You need to get lean. Okay. The things you won't really see, like again, group style classes, we're not doing Zumba, maybe a spin class, right? So you get that intensity. You're not going to do tiny light dumbbells. We're not doing that. Okay. We're not going to put you on 5 days of cardio right out the gate or 6 days of cardio for 45 minutes. We want to increase your cardio gradually because if we start you at 6 days of cardio, where are we going to go from there? We can only go so far up with the cardio to get more energy expenditure to produce the look we're going for. So we want to start out as low as we can, still get an effect and increase cardio as we go, as your body kind of gets used to it. Okay. We also don't really want to do running unless you really enjoy running and that's something you really want to do. We can kind of make exceptions for that. And yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, just on the group type classes, I know like we will generally have some girls do spin. Mostly it's going to be our wellness or figure girls because there is some more resistance component to that. It's a little more taxing on the lower half. And you can build your legs really if you are working intently in spin, not necessarily build them like you would weight training, but you can keep some density and size in your quads. And to Alysha's point, we see this often, or at least I've had clients and athletes, I don't know if you guys have this, where we tell them they need to do a specific amount of cardio and they don't listen and they want to do more because they're like, oh my God, I have 25 pounds to lose. I need to just do more right now. Trust your coach.
Yes.
There is a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have taken on new clients who maybe had 10, 12 pounds to lose, and I could easily make that happen in like a 16 or 20 week prep if we're like really diligent, but they're coming to me already doing 6 days of cardio, like 4 Orange Theory days and like 2 days of like running for 45 minutes. And they're eating like 1,300 calories. I'm not going to put you in prep.
There's nowhere to go from there.
There's nowhere to go.
No. There's nowhere to go.
So that's why this is such an intricate sport, is because we have to consider each individual. That's why you won't see a lot of like group programs or like a DIY bodybuilding kit that you can download online. You'll get far with it. But again, everybody's so individual that you have to take the person's set point and their start point into consideration before you strategically plan out their plan and their program.
I think it also goes to show like doing a little bit of an off season or an improvement season with your coach before you go into prep is a really great way to start. Because if you're one of those people that are doing 6 days of cardio, you're eating 1,300 calories and you're like, okay, I want to prep. I'm like, okay, well, we need to reverse you out first. You need to stop doing so much cardio. We need to kind of recomp your body, let your adrenals catch up, and give you a little bit more food, because other than that, only thing that happens is either cardio gets more or food gets less.
Yeah. And that's not a fun place to be in. And honestly, it won't be a good look. It won't. You'll look like a melted candle, and y'all know how I feel.
Y'all know how we say that.
Yeah. And then just to recap on the weight training, it depends. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people, if you have a lower body session, it could take you an hour if you're by yourself, an hour and 15 minutes. If you have an upper body day, you can knock it out, if you're a bikini girl, in 40 minutes. And then your cardio, like Alysha was saying, 2-a-days, sometimes we have to split that up. If you've been fucking off on your diet, if we've had way too many plateaus, if you had some social things happening and your body weight's all over the place, sometimes in the last 4 to 6 weeks of prep, we might be like, okay, we aren't lean enough. If we're still going to target the show, you're going to have to do 2-a-days of cardio, which means you're going to have an AM cardio, your weight training session, and a PM cardio. And we don't want you smashing that all together at once.
No.
Because you need food in between there to sustain.
Who's done 2-a-days?
Yeah, definitely. I have. All right, moving on about the diet, the supplements, the training, the cardio. And now we're going to move over to a contest prep timeline with a real client. So I'm going to let you just kind of absorb that for a second. You'll see my client, Claire. I've only met this woman once, which FYI, most of our coaching is, we don't see most of our people. We have a studio in town, and even I don't see those people because I'm never training clients anymore. But Claire is in Delaware. So she started with me in 2022 at 215 pounds. Okay. Didn't really have any history with weight training. And I said, we're going to need to build first. And she's like, okay, but I have a lot of fat to lose. I don't care. We still need to build muscle, and your body is going to change shape. Where there was fat before will now be muscle, and the scale will move in time. And so we took an hour, I wish, snap the fingers. We took a year to do that. So you'll see in the left-hand corner in the red suit, that was in January of this year. And she was 174 pounds. So we lost a significant portion of that in a year while she was also building. Okay. There were diet breaks in there. There were calories that were at maintenance for a while. And so her nutrition, she was not dieting for the whole year. She was definitely managing her nutrition and wasn't eating haphazardly. And we programmed things in there for her, but it needed to be methodical because I wasn't going to try to just diet her all the way into April of 2023. That's unrealistic. And she probably could have knocked out a chunk of this eating asparagus and tilapia for like 6 months straight, but she would have had a ton of loose skin, and she would have not had the beautiful muscle and shape that she ended with in April. So it was methodical. So when you are building, you have to think about how long have you been lifting, right? So when I do physique assessments, which are basically your application to join the team, if you are planning on doing that, I need you to be very specific about your training history, because that will tell me, okay, then under your body fat, we probably have some dense muscle under there. If you haven't been lifting and you're starting from scratch, then you're a blank canvas, and we need to get you to build for a little bit. So ideally, you've been training for about a year at minimum if you're looking at entering the bikini entry-level competition world. At least a year, 3 times or more per week in the kind of realm we're discussing, right? The training that we were talking about, you're going to be in the weight room with machines and all those things. And it's important that you have that as a baseline, because it's not a skinny contest. I can get anybody skinny. Anybody skinny, but that's not what bodybuilding is looking for. We're looking for muscle, shape, tone, and that's not going to be just getting you super lean. The second component is we went into the shred mode. So with that, when we look at the client, we say, okay, this is where you're at, and this is where we want you to be. Now, when it comes to stage weight, they're not weighing you. Okay. There's nobody at the show that's going to be like, get on this scale. We need to make sure you're this weight. They check your height. That's all they care about. As a coach, we're looking at what is the common bikini or wellness or figure athlete at your height coming in on weight-wise on stage, looking the part. Okay. This is what we take into consideration. And so we have to reverse engineer that based off of your starting point. Okay. Our weight loss targets are generally at 0.55 to 0.65% per week when we're in that shred mode. We don't want you dropping a ton of weight every single week because, say it with me, melted candle. Okay. Yeah. We don't want that. So we want that at an appropriate rate. And that's why we like to do it over a longer span of time. So that way you're not, again, looking like a melted candle. And we can have some weeks where if you have a plateau, something happens in your life, you get sick, somebody, at work quits and you're working overtime and you can't get to the gym. We have some buffer room in there for fuck ups. Okay. Let me just to put it bluntly. All right. So we like to have at least 30 weeks with a new client to make sure that we get you ready on time and we coast in that Goldilocks spot. You're not too lean. You're not, not conditioned enough. This also gives us time to do things like Alysha mentioned, which is a refeed, which is just a fancy way of saying we're going to give you more food. Okay.
Yay.
We're going to give you more food because it is ludicrous to think that you are going to diet hardcore for 30 weeks on 1,000 calories and not want to punch a baby. Okay. So, I mean, I probably will.
If you wanted me to do that for a week, I probably would feel like that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be done methodically. Now, we like to take you into a 30-week prep if you have 20 or less pounds to lose. And hence why starting with a coach early, because people are like, I'm just going to wait till I lose the weight first. And it's like, no. That's a fool's game, because bodybuilding is not a skinny contest and you need a coach to map the process out for you. So when you do get lean, there is something underneath the body fat that you've built. So super important. So this is Claire. Like I said, she started at 215. We spent a year building and recompositioning her body, dropping body fat. We took about 30 weeks to shred her down. And then she came in at 155. She's 5'11". So that is something you need to consider. If you're like, oh, 155, I'm 160, I could do that. She's 5'11". She's almost 6 feet tall. So with her, we wanted to push for a little more leanness. We didn't quite get there, but she was like, I don't care. I want to do this show anyways. I lost a tremendous amount of weight. This was a big transformation for me. And I was super proud of her. And I was like, let's go. So this is how we kind of formulate that. So this is a transformation that took a lot more time because she was at a higher body fat percentage and higher scale weight than ideal for a contest prep timeline.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about this just a teeny bit earlier, where it was like, you want to weigh as much as you can, but look as lean as you can at the same time.
Yes.
And that also goes to show, I know this is like beginner's guide, but that is going to tell you, like, if you've been building muscle, say you're not a competitor yet and you've been building muscle, but you're still trying to weigh what you weighed in high school, that's wrong.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. We ain't doing that, sister. None of that. Okay. You want to have more muscle on you, have more tone, and then also be able to lose the fat so you can look as lean as you can at your heaviest but leanest weight.
Yes. And to that point, with it being not a weight contest or a skinny contest, we've had athletes on stage at 97 pounds, which I'm going to show you. There's a slide at the end with one of our athletes this weekend, 97 pounds. And we've had clients on stage at 160, again, depending on how much muscle they had, how tall they are. So it varies. So it's very person specific, body composition specific, and division specific.